खोजो 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 खोजो.
Good evening. We are slightly late, so I'm going to try to make this as exciting for you as possible. The way we're going to start this, the way I thought we'd structure this is starting from Sahana ji, working our way in. Is Bollywood going extinct? And no matter what the provocation, I'm going to give you 2 minutes each. Please put forward your hypothesis or your support or disagreement with that particular statement. Shahana ji, I'll start with you.
So is Bollywood going extinct? The answer would be both yes and no. Yes, because with the OTT platform becoming so popular, Bollywood, the people are not interested in going to the theater again unless it's going to be a very, very special experience. So OTT is eating into Bollywood. So yes, that is causing an existentialist crisis. And then COVID, pandemics. I mean, if one more pandemic, and again people would stop going to the theater. So that has also affected Bollywood a lot. And then the other thing is, of course, the people waking up to their true history, coming to know about the narratives. And so the mood is that people realize now that Bollywood for quite some time has been hijacked by that Dawood kind of gang, and the way the majority, the Hindus, have been portrayed in movies. That has been noticed by a lot of people. They'll be at the saffron-clad person who is the villain, or a tilak-wearing person who is the villain, or making fun of Murti Puja. All these things are being noticed, and a lot of people don't want to promote certain kind of anti-Hindu, anti-India actors. That's happening. But the other side is that Bollywood has also learned to strategize. So they have, when they see how South Indian movies based on certain, like Hindu stories, if they become successful, then, they have started pivoting, and they have also started bringing in these themes. They have started aligning with the South Indian filmmakers. So when we saw RRR, we saw Alia Bhatt in that. So suddenly now Bollywood is clever. They know how to, they know which way the wind is blowing. So, they'll make biopics. They'll have like Tanha Ji, which they know that is going to be successful. So Bollywood does that as well. There is a saying in Kannada that jar bidru no mise mannaglila, which basically means that, a wrestler, he falls down, he slips, and he hurts himself. But then he gets up, as he dusts himself and behaves as if nothing happened to him, and he carries along. I mean, it's a sarcastic idiom. So that is what Bollywood is. Right now, they are playing the game. So they have pivoted. They are going to, have OTT releases. They'll do whatever it takes to be in business.
Perfect. Anant ji, your...
नमस्कार, धन्यवाद आप सबका. विषय बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है और मैं थोड़ा अलग हट के कहना चाहूँगा. जब आप बॉलीवुड कहते हैं तो मैं उसको हिंदी फिल्म समझता हूँ. और हाँ, हिंदी फिल्म संकट में है, लेकिन संकट उसको कंटेंट आदि से ज़्यादा इसके डायरेक्टर्स से और कॉल शीट से है. क्योंकि डायरेक्टर्स नाम की जो संस्था हिंदी फिल्मों में है वो लगातार छींचती जा रही है. सुपरस्टार अपनी मनमानी करते हैं, वो लगातार कहानियों में अपने हिसाब से बदलाव करते हैं, कॉस्ट्यूम में अपने हिसाब से बदलाव करते हैं, और सीन दर सीन कटवाते चले जाते हैं. डायरेक्टर्स की कुछ नहीं चलती है वहाँ, और डायरेक्टर्स कुछ नहीं कर पाते. वो लाचार बेचारा की तरह सिर्फ उनका नाम पोस्टर पर होता है. एडिटिंग में बैठते हैं, सीक्वेंसिंग देख सकें वो, दैट्स इट. और दूसरी जो सबसे बड़ी समस्या बॉलीवुड को मुझे दिखाई देती है वो है बॉलीवुड में अब कॉल शीट का ज़माना आ गया है. एक रन ऑर्डर पकड़ा दिया जाता है, और उस रन ऑर्डर के आधार पर आपको 5 मिनट में ये शूट कर लेना है, 10 मिनट में हीरोइन से डांस सीक्वेंस करवा लेना है. मुझे याद पड़ता है कि जब आप विमल रॉय जैसे या ऋषिकेश मुखर्जी जैसे लोगों को या निर्देशकों को याद करते हैं तो वो 3-3, 4-4 घंटे, अगर मैं आपको बताऊं, सुजाता फिल्म का एक दृश्य है जिसमें नूतन और सुनील दत्त एक छुई मुई के पौधे के सामने खड़े होकर वो शर्माने का एक दृश्य है, उसको शूट करने में बिमल दा को 3 दिन लगे थे. कॉल शीट के ज़माने में उसे 15 मिनट में शूट करके ख़त्म कर देना होगा. तो वो न भाव पकड़ पाते हैं, न भाषा पकड़ पाते हैं और न भावाभिव्यक्ति पकड़ पाते हैं। ये सबसे बड़ा खतरा है जो आपके कंटेंट को भी प्रभावित करता है। और तीसरा जो मुझे लगता है कि बॉलीवुड या हिंदी फिल्मों के सामने जो सबसे बड़ी चुनौती या जो सबसे बड़ा संकट है वो ये 8 इंच का मोबाइल है। इस 8 इंच के मोबाइल ने कोविड महामारी के दौरान जिस प्रकार से पूरे देश भर में अपनी पैठ बनाई या जिस प्रकार से अपनी लोकप्रियता हासिल की, उसने सिनेमा वालों को सोचने पर मजबूर कर दिया। और आपको कहानियों में इस प्रकार की कहानी लेके आनी पड़ेगी, इस प्रकार के बदलाव लेके आने पड़ेंगे जिससे कि कोई चुनौती से पार पा सके। अंतिम बात मैं कहना चाहूँगा, एक तो ये टिक टिक घड़ी सामने चलती है ना तो दिल धड़कने की तरह होता रहता है कि अभी अभिजीत बोलेंगे बंद कर दीजिए, आपका समय खत्म हो गया। तो इसको एकदम सामने लगा दिया मेरे यार। तो मतलब मुझे ये सारी चीज़ें जो टेक्निकल चीज़ें हैं और उसके अलावा जो इन्होंने कहा, मैं उससे पूर्णतया सहमति रखता हूँ कि फिल्मों में बहुत सारी चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं जो बगैर किसी चीज़ की आती है। मैं मुक्काबाज फिल्म का उदाहरण हर मंच पे देता हूँ, यहाँ भी दूंगा। उसमें एक संवाद है, हीरो आता है और ऐसे ही बोलता है, अभिजीत क्या कर रहे हो यार, वो आएंगे तुम्हारी हत्या कर देंगे और भारत माता की जय के नारे लगाकर चले जाएंगे। नुआंसेस क्या है इसके, है ना। अभी एक रणबीर कपूर की कोई फिल्म आई थी, उसमें कहा मंदिर तो सारे अपराध करके छुपने की जगह होती हैं। ऐसे संवाद लिखने के पहले थोड़ा बहुत मुझे लगता है कि सोचना चाहिए। जो लेखक हैं उनको लिखने की मर्यादा संविधान हमारा देता है, लेकिन वही संविधान जो हमें अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी देता है, वही संविधान हमें अभिव्यक्ति की मर्यादा भी सिखाता है। तो आज़ादी और मर्यादा जब तक दोनों साथ नहीं चलेंगे, मुझे लगता है चुनौती और संकट दोनों रहेंगे।
ठीक। शेफाली जी।
धन्यवाद अभिजीत। मैं पहले दोनों वक्ताओं से सहमत हूँ, बट योर क्वेश्चन वॉज, इज बॉलीवुड और हिंदी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री, एज आई वुड प्रेफर टू कॉल इट, is it going to go extinct? No, it is not going to go extinct. The earlier topic was, is Bollywood staring at an existential crisis? To that, my answer would be somewhat yes. Why? Because as the previous speakers have said, Hindi movie industry for once is facing challenges that it faced never before. First of all, the audience has now access to excellent global quality filmmaking through OTT and through regional cinema as well. So it is not like the Hindi films are be all and all. तो हिंदी फिल्म जो बनाते हैं उनको सोचना ज़रूर पड़ेगा कि वो जनता जो मूवी देखने वाली है वो उनकी कंटेंट एक्सेप्ट करेगी या नहीं, या उनको एंटी हिंदू, ऑब्वियसली एंटी हिंदू कंटेंट वो नहीं दिखा पाएंगे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, दीपा मेहता की एक फिल्म थी फायर। वो फिल्म was based on same-sex relationship. It was based on a short story by Ismat Chugtai called Lihaf, and which is the filmmaker has accepted it. Now, Lihaf is a story about a same-sex relationship between one Begum Jan, who is the Begum, neglected Begum of some Nawab, and her servant called Rabbo. Now, Begum Jan and Rabbo have a same-sex relationship in that movie, in that story, because Begum Jan is bored with her life. Now, that theme has been taken into the movie by Deepa Mehta, but what names does Deepa Mehta choose to give her protagonist? They become Sita and Radha. Why? Why not keep Begum Jan and Rabbo as it is, as Ismat Chugtai has said? This is clearly an attempt to provoke Hindus, which they got away with it बैक देन। थोड़ा सा बहस हुआ, थोड़े से प्रोटेस्ट हुए, लेकिन वो मूवी चली, वो मूवी गई मूवी हॉल्स में। आज की तारीख में अगर वो मूवी रिलीज़ होती तो उसके खिलाफ जो माहौल था वो कई गुना ज़्यादा होता, एंड आई कैन नॉट प्रेडिक्ट व्हाट वुड हैव हैपेंड टू दैट मूवी। सो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज, इन टुडेज दौर नो फिल्म मेकर विल डेयर टू मेक अ मूवी लाइक दैट, एंड इट्स अ गुड थिंग।
थैंक यू। वानी जी।
Namaskar, good evening. I have a problem with the word Bollywood itself because it's actually a hyperbole. It's a poor step cousin of whatever is celebrated as Hollywood all across the world. I think we should be talking about the Indian film industry, which is so many different nuances, genres, and types of, films which are made, whether Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Odia, Bangla, so on and so forth. Number two, I think a very important question about the existential crisis would be the pandemic itself created a existential crisis for content creators all across the world. Since I sit on the Central Board of Film Certification, one thing that we always speak about is what was in your palm, which was, as Anantji said, the smartphone, immediately became the collective. Families were holed up inside, it was locked down, you could not have theatrical releases of films. It obviously changed the very way expression of content was done. So having said that, after coming out of this perilous time, if we are not going through an existential crisis, then something would be wrong with us. As Jiddu Krishnamurti famously said, the observer is observed. I think the time is to observe the way this kind of nuance is going to play out as far as content is concerned. Today, storytelling, and we are a land of Kathavachaks. Every nook and corner of this country, every possible state is full of great kathas. I think, in fact, the time is actually the opposite. We are finally looking inward. Despite the global appeal of cinema, I was at Cannes this year. Also, I go to film festivals regularly. India was the honor country at Cannes for the first time. What does it say to you? Global cinema is finally finding representation, and it's giving representation to Indian filmmaking. So, if we were to just put this one little bracket of saying Bollywood, we will actually do a disservice to the great filmmaking which happens in this country. The great storytellers, the poets, the people who tell various kinds of stories. Today, folk tales are becoming mainstream cinema. Also remember, more than 73% of India is under 35. Are we looking at the aspiration of the youth? Are we looking at what kind of stories they wish to see? Yes, the advent of OTT is the explosion and democratization of content. Today, a filmmaker doesn't have to struggle whether he or she can produce and distribute films, is not at the behest of the so-called underworld I think ma'am was talking about. There is corporatization of finance and money. And that itself paves the way for great filmmaking and great content. I'm rather saying, if this is a moment of flux, let it remain. Chaos creates complete and beautiful storytelling. Let us not look at the negative. Let's look at what the odd sides are. I also tell producers when they come to me, yes, objectification of women is a problem. We at the CBFC have taken a complete decision. You will make garbage, we will not certify it. Having said that, if you will stop watching garbage, we will not make it.
Lovely. Thank you, Vani ji. Prakash ji.
Hi everyone. Well, I wouldn't use the word extinct at all because nothing goes extinct on this earth.
Except dinosaurs.
Nothing. It is probably unlearning. It is evolution. There is a pause, and there is a pressure to become more relevant. And don't hold on to certain things because respect people have grown. And that's exactly what is happening. So at this point of time, don't look at it. And I agree with her saying, just don't say Bollywood. Of course, you wanted to have it, but it is an Indian cinema. So cinema is an art form. Cinema is a language. Cinema is a perception. Cinema is what is going to give it to the audience different dimensions of a thing, what they see. And it's a storytelling. And anybody can make any films they want. And finally, the people will decide what to watch, what not to watch. And yes, pandemic has changed a lot of things. And a lot of industries have suffered. Not only the film industry, it's a renting industry, buildings, offices. Because especially the pandemic in connection with cinema was, I think it has questioned the mafia. Because when cinema is a language, it's a river, it started and suddenly they said it has to be done only through studio setups. Or there is a distribution network, there are theaters, people have to come and see. People used to spend 4 hours to watch a 2-hour film. But now, because of the pandemic, when the mafia was stopped, the whole structure which owned, like somebody built a bridge and said you have to drink water only from this bridge. But then the people now started looking at content. And probably that opened up now because people are not just seeing films just because they want to see. They're seeing content and language doesn't matter to them. because they are able to exposed into different things because it was easy for them to access, and in their own time. They used to save their money, their time, and the taste, and you know, like it's like a farmer, you know, who farms and sells tomatoes at 15 rupees, and the consumer buys it at 45 rupees. Who ate the 30 rupees in between? You know, that was questioned because of this, and I think it's a very healthy trend. If something is going, something is in a crisis, that means you need to be relevant, and there is a need for us to unlearn and look at it. And I think we need to go back to content, because you can't keep taking audience for granted anymore. You know, you need to understand it. It is a conversation, it is a dialogue, it is a relationship between the maker and the audience, and nobody in between can play the fool anymore. Nobody should be able to control it or try to guide it. And even when you see the OTTs coming down, see, the whole mafia had set it in such a way that you have to make a film in 2.5 hours. So you have to have a beginning, you have to have an internal bang and a climax. The whole thought process has to think of a story in 2.5 hours. Now we can see a 13-hour film. You know, there are so many stories coming out. You know, in a film, in a situation, the camera can go into the maid's house, into a driver's space, somebody else's. So there's so itna kahaniyan aa rahe hain. I think it is, we are in that point of time where we have to evolve, we have to become relevant, we have to unlearn a lot of things and try to become relevant. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Prakash ji. Mayank, that's yours.
We can share.
If not the thoughts, at least the mic.
We totally share the thoughts as well, Prakash. I couldn't agree more with you. I know Bollywood as a word itself gets debated all the time, and I genuinely don't have a problem with these things. If you go abroad and you just say the word Bollywood, it means something to someone. It's become a brand name in its own way, and of course that's not the debate we're going to have here. The debate is actually whether it's going through an existential crisis, which is the debate, right? What is not debatable is, or what is undeniable, is that there's a transformational phase. It's going through a serious transformation purely because the entire entertainment world is going through that transformation. One is, how do we define, or what do we mean by Bollywood? I presume we mean the Hindi film industry that is based in Mumbai as a city, that has a lot of people who are either artists or entrepreneurs. They make movies almost like startups. They live in a particular area, and that area is what you could say the film district, say Bandra northwards, right? This is distinct from the television industry that also exists in the same plot of land. So you have, these multiple channels that came, the 90s, mid-90s, satellite revolution that happened. So there was a TV industry, there's a film industry. I think the big change that happened, this is the transformation we're talking about, is the OTT world, which is roughly around 2016 or so, where you have long-form content, right? Which looks like television, but it is not long enough to be television. So it's not like someone's employed for 1,000 episodes. It still goes to about 8 or 9 episodes. In terms of aesthetics, it's more film. So the guys who started making this content was actually not the television industry, but the film industry. So you suddenly have Bollywood as a platform on web. And then there are two industries then, right? So that's one. So film industry itself changes then. Because all these guys, all these web shows that these are all filmmakers who were Bollywood filmmakers and were making movies before. The second change, of course, is mainstream, right? Technically, what we mean by Bollywood, when you just throw that term Bollywood, we mean it's the mainstream. This is the mainstream movie industry. The fact is, and as has been pointed out again and again, with that cell phone, there is no mainstream anymore. There used to be this one big star, whose movies would come one particular Friday. Now you have a YouTube star, you have an Instagram star, you have a Twitter star. These are all celebrities that are all creating content in their own ways. And of course you have the OTT star, and of course you always had the television star, and then there's also the Bollywood star. That changes everything, because it changes the star system also in its own right. Whether we'll have the same Bollywood movie stars of the crowd that comes out, to meet Amitabh Bachchan on a Sunday or Shah Rukh Khan, I'm not too sure. You will have our own little mainstreams in our own pockets. Every day you'll come across some person you never heard of, and they have millions of followers. Who are these people, right? So that's the democracy of content that we're talking about. The third thing that we mention Bollywood, we immediately think in our head is, Indian cinema. I think that's the big change also that took place. It's not Indian cinema anymore. Apparently, a movie from Bangalore can come and be the biggest hit in India, being watched by everyone in North India, right? So that is Indian cinema, KGF 2, 1400 crore. You can have a movie that comes from Hyderabad and cracks it in the market in the north. That's RRR for you, or well, started with Bahubali, didn't it? So this idea also, this perception that because you're a Hindi-speaking audience, you will only watch Hindi movies that were made in Mumbai city, therefore Bollywood movies, has also been completely dismantled. And I think that's a fantastic thing. Because now you have movies unifying us despite our language, something that we hadn't seen in this form before.
Yeah. So, it was a very interesting contrast between what Sahana and Shefali said about content versus what Mayank and Prakash Ji are saying about languages now being much more acceptable. So, what, Sahana ji, main aapse shuru karta hu. What do you feel? Because I know you come from the narrative stream, but are you willing to accept the argument that languages and that exposure, which is something Shefali also spoke about, is exposure to a lot more different genres? It's suddenly like, pehle humko Delhi mein bas butter chicken milta tha, but now you've got access to Italian food and, Russian food or Ukrainian food, whatever, today in Delhi. So you will like to eat a lot more of that. How much ground are you and Shefali ji willing to cede to this side?
Sorry, what is the last thing you said?
I wanted to know how much ground are you willing to cede to this side, which says it has a lot more to do with options on the table, though both of you also brought that. But what I'm curious about is the weightage you give to it. Because in your speeches, the two of you gave a lot of weightage to the narrative, whereas the weightage here was a lot more to choices, a buffet offered, and the medium. So, Shefali, we'll start with you. Okay, Shan.
No, so when I gave a lot of weightage to OTT, so it was actually kind of there was that parallel.
But how do you split that? Like, give me a
But
percentage.
before that, I just want to say that Bollywood, I use the term Bollywood for movies after the 80s and 90s, whereas before that, the period of Nutan and Wahida and all those people, I call it Hindi movies. So now I love to call it Bollywood because it's that for me now. Okay. So, the choices, of course, when there are so many choices, and then the languages, yes, a movie like Kantara is now, it became a hit. Because, so now that language barrier has been overcome. So we have more of the movies that are dubbed in different languages, and they are accessible to the people. So now it's not just, the Urdu wood or Bollywood as it's called. Urdu wood is also another word for it, by the way. So we get to see the authentic, the movies from India, where you're actually, look at what happened in Kantara. I mean, small part of Karnataka, what's happening over there, you're getting to see that. So yes, that also is helping. That is helping in bringing out the true narrative of India's civilization, which is not helping Bollywood.
Okay.
So that is also, I would agree with that part.
Right.
But yes, the awakening of the Hindus is playing a role, because again, the same Twitter, the same Facebook, all this, the reason why all of us are being heard by so many people is that it's making sense to them. Why Shefali is having so many followers is because she's making an important point over there, right? That our true history, our true narrative has to come out. And so that is one of the reasons too. I mean, you will never know you can only conjecture at this point.
True.
But yes, the narrative
But
does
then,
matter.
Shefali, the question, the way I want to frame this to you is, there was also a call to boycott Pathan. There was the belief that it was somehow anti-Hindu. It did very, very well in the box office. So what happened to the entire narrative out there? I mean, somebody who was opposed to something anti-Hindu somewhere else should have seen to it that Pathan also bombed, and it did not bomb.
See, what I'm trying to say is that audience demands and audience tastes have definitely shifted, definitely changed. I'm not going to talk about Pathan because I'm not sure how much of the success is limited to, paid reviews or marketing. I'm really not sure. It may be true, it may not be true. Yeah, it's all very nice to snigger, Mr. Raj, but I have a point. I have a right to laugh. No, no, you're sniggering, but that's okay. I can also snicker at you, but that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make here is he spoke about languages giving an option. Movies like Kantara, movies like KGF, and movies like RRR work not because they are Telugu or Kannada or any other language. It is because, as Rishabh Shetty put it very eloquently, that Kantara is an Indian movie made in Kannada. So that is what is happening, and those movies, they were always connected to the soil. It's not like suddenly a KGF happened or suddenly a RRR had happened or suddenly a Kantara had happened. Language movies were always true to local culture. What is happening now is that with the opening of with subtitles, with dubbed versions or whatever. And earlier that class system used to be there. हाँ हिंदी मूवी और कोई स्टार अगर हिंदी मूवी में बड़ा नहीं बनता तो वो पैन इंडिया स्टार नहीं है. अब ऐसा नहीं है. Now ऋषभ शेट्टी is a pan India star even though his movie is in Kannada. And he has no qualms about it. So that has changed, that has shifted. I am not saying that the boycott Bollywood call should be given for every movie or whether it will work for all movies or no. That is not what I am saying at all. All of us have a right to say that, okay, this movie doesn't fit my sensibilities, so I am boycotting it. What about you? That is a democratic right that all of us have.
Right.
That is not the point. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not work. But the point is, nobody can dare to make a film like PK now and show Shivji the way it was shown in that movie and expect to get away with it. And that is what has changed.
Fair point. And I'm going to take that to Anant Vijay ji and Vani ji. How much, you know, a lot of the thing here is being there's a whole anti-woke movement coming out that feels that there's too much offense being taken to everything. And where would you, Anant ji, draw the line? क्या है जो बहुत ज़्यादा जा रहा है into censorship basically, like you see in America today where हर चीज़ का pronouns लगाना पड़ता है, हर चीज़ में ऑस्कर कैटेगरी में आजकल एक ट्रांस पर्सन होना चाहिए, एक गे पर्सन होना चाहिए, नहीं तो फिर आपको ऑस्कर के लिए शॉर्टलिस्ट भी नहीं किया जाएगा. And at what point is it being sensitive to an audience?
कंटेंट के साथ साथ इंटेंट का होना बहुत आवश्यक है. और मैं एक छोटा सा उदाहरण कंटेंट और इंटेंट का देना चाहता हूँ आप लोगों, आप सब विद्वान लोग बैठे हैं यहाँ. एक फिल्म आई थी चक दे इंडिया, याद होगा आपको, और प्रचारित ये किया गया था कि वो मीर रंजन नेगी की सत्य घटना पर आधारित वो फिल्म बनाई गई थी. 1000 करोड़ बिजनेस करने वाले शाहरुख खान उसमें हीरो थे. उसमें शाहरुख खान के कैरेक्टर का नाम मीर रंजन नेगी के कैरेक्टर से जो इंस्पायर था उसका नाम नईम खान था, याद होगा अगर आपको. और पूरी फिल्म के इंटेंट पर अगर बात करें तो उस फिल्म में ये दिखाया गया था कि चूंकि वो नईम खान है, चूंकि वो मुस्लिम है, इसलिए वो प्रताड़ित हो रहे हैं. अगर आप सब लोगों को स्टोरी याद हो उसकी तो. और लेकिन वो प्रताड़ित होने के बावजूद देशभक्त हैं. ये इंटेंट था जिसको कंटेंट की तरह से पेश किया गया. मेरा एक और उदाहरण आपको देता हूं छपाक का. लक्ष्मी पर फेंकने की बात थी, उसमें भी पात्रों के नाम हिंदू मुसलमान गड्ढमड करके इंटेंट बनाया गया. एक तीसरा उदाहरण देता हूं जिस अभिनेत्री का नाम मैं नहीं लेता हूं, मैं लूंगा भी नहीं, रस भरी में आई थी वो, और उसका जो टैगलाइन था ओटीटी का, उस टैगलाइन में स्कूल के छात्रों के बीच मेरठ स्टेशन पर दुपट्टा लहराते हुए जाती थी और क्या क्या बदल देने के दावे वो करती हैं बैकग्राउंड में. तो जब तक आपके कंटेंट का इंटेंट सही नहीं होगा, मुझे लगता है ये जो आप बायकॉट कॉल की बात कर रहे थे ये होते रहेगा. और बायकॉट कॉल जो अज्ञानी लोग हैं अभिजीत, वही कहते हैं कि रिसेंट फेनोमेना है. आप सब लोगों ने भरत मुनि का नाम सुना होगा. जितने फिल्म से जुड़े लोग हैं भरत मुनि के नाट्यशास्त्र पे के बारे में जानते होंगे, परिचित होंगे. दुनिया का सबसे पहला नाटक देवासुर संग्राम था, जिसके बारे में भरत मुनि ने कहा कि उसको ब्रह्मा जी ने स्वयं लिखा था. उसका भी बहिष्कार हुआ था, उसका भी विरोध हुआ था, और यह भरत मुनि के नाट्यशास्त्र में उद्धृत है. तो जब हमारी परंपरा में भरत मुनि से लेके महात्मा गांधी से लेके गांधी जी ने भी बायकॉट कॉल दिया था। हिंसक ना होइए आप, आपको अपनी पसंद नापसंद को प्रदर्शित करने का अधिकार है, आपको सार्वजनिक रूप से उसे बताने का अधिकार है, और ये अधिकार संविधान सम्मत है। जो लोग कहते हैं कि बायकॉट कॉल देके एक हिंदू इकोसिस्टम ने ऐसा कर दिया और वो कर दिया, वो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। वो कोई संगठित नहीं होता, वह स्वतः स्फूर्त होता है। जिस प्रकार से गांधी जी ने भी तो विदेशी वस्तुओं के बायकॉट की कॉल दी थी, गांधी जी ने भी नमक सत्याग्रह चलाया था। तो ये गांधी का देश है, ये संविधान से चलने वाला देश है, और गांधी और संविधान दोनों बायकॉट करने की हमें न सिर्फ सलाहियत देते हैं बल्कि परंपरा भी देते हैं।
Gee, thank you. So boycotts are very Indian. Vani ji, I'm going to change that question slightly for you because you brought in कि आप कैसे you will not certify a movie that say objectifies women, right? So that's not a boycott. That's kind of a certification thing. But let me ask you this: जहाँ इस देश में there is an urban India where sexual intermingling is a lot, gender intermingling is a lot more common, as opposed to say a rural India where gender segregation is probably practiced a lot more. Don't you think that there is a fundamental difference in nuance out there where a gender segregated society will want different content? And is it fair to be not certifying what that market wants?
Well, then make the porn industry universal and decertify it and let it. I mean, Gulzar Saab famously said, and I'm on quote here, that if there is no central board of film certification, then everybody will just be making and producing porn. But it's not as simplistic as this, Abhishek. Let's seriously look at what we are talking about. I do want to react to the woke and the anti-woke part that you said before. There is also a word inclusion, and inclusion has to be universal. If there is a LGBTQ plus right movement and a Me Too movement, and there are many things which has brought in the West to start to understand sensibilities and sensitivities of portrayal, we as a country are also a dynamic process. And when I say that objectification of women, where is the gaze of the camera is what is important. Is it between the legs of a woman? Or is it a top angle shot which is talking about criminology and what happens to women when they are sexually harmed? So exactly when you certify films, the gaze is what is important. Frankly, I am the junior most veteran on the Central Board of Film Certification. I've survived, 2 regimes. One thing I can tell you, it is not a very easy process to certify. It's highly democratic. There are about 8 people sitting in the room with me, and I am bound by the redundant act of 1952, the Cinematograph Act. If there's no consensus of certification, the film will not certify. But on record, I'm saying it, there is no word called ban which we can do. So I'm saying there's a constitutionally compromised body, constitutionally put in, not comprised body.
Comprised.
And when there is a constitutionally comprised body, let them do their work. For the first time, there's a board, there's a Gautami, there's a Vidya Balan, there's a former director of the National School of Drama. Every single person in the board is from theatre, film and literature. At least have some respect towards what they do. They have some intention to do what they do. But when it comes to whatever you may call boycott, हम पद्मावत भी झेल गए ना, नेशनल कैलामिटी थे ना. जब फाइनली वो फिल्म बाहर आई और प्रदर्शित हुई, किस बात की चर्चा हुई? क्या उन बातों की चर्चा हुई कि ये फिल्म किसी इतिहास के किसी रूप को खंडित करती है, या ये उस चीज़ की प्रतिमूर्ति है जिसके बारे में 11 महीने तक इस देश में लगातार चर्चा होती रही? So finally all I'm saying is, yes, I have the right to feel offended if you have the right to offend. I do. But when it comes to the collective, why do you have only theatrical certification of films? Then you should be certifying everything, na? You're not.
Yeah.
Again, what is consumed as an individual, the moment it becomes collective, the gaze changes.
Right.
And that gaze cannot be, it is distinct and unique. And all over the world, whether it's France or the United States, films are certified. Yes. They have to be certified. Because when you're watching it as a collective, there is a responsibility. You've also taken responsibility that those 1,000 odd people, those 2,000 odd people are there in that space and they will remain safe.
But just a counter. So you would support a Western style classification as opposed to certification.
Age-related classification. But I'm also saying we are a very nuanced country. You cannot rubbish the cultural nuance of a country.
Right.
What works in the West is going to work with us is a horrendous, generalization. And we cannot. And let me tell you, look at the OTT. We are again going back to what is happening now, what is the most dynamic process, what is happening as a democratic sort of, unveiling of the narrative. Look at the stories which are coming from smaller towns of India.
Yeah.
They are about you and me. They're about our lives. They're about what we feel big dreams, big India, small towns, big dreams means. Let us celebrate that.
Yeah.
It's time to celebrate that.
Right.
And again, content is not just connected to what is being said on social media, what is being put out. It takes a very long period of time and tremendous hard work to put a thing out, to put a film out. Thousands and millions of people are involved in the creation of that work.
Yeah.
At least let that work come out. Let it find its creative journey. Agree, disagree. It's your democratic right to do both.
Right.
But don't already rubbish a process, a journey, which you've not even encountered as yet.
Fair point. Prakashji, because you brought up evolution, I wanted to ask you about two evolutions. When India was largely rural, and since the 1990s, it's very rapidly, we're almost, 65% urban today. Since you act in movies, what evolutions have you seen in audience perception, number one? And number two, how open do you think, because, for example, let me give you an example of food, for example. Indian food never really competes in a Michelin category because we don't make our food that way. We don't serve our food that way. So it's fundamentally different. Like Iranian cinema is fundamentally different, but it appeals to a Western sensibility. Whereas Indian cinema, like Vani said, it was showcased at Cannes, but it's still seen as a kind of a niche sort of thing. So how have you felt the evolution, and where do you think it's going, and how we're going to deal with it with urbanization and niche?
You talked of food. Just look at the coastline of this country. You come from Gujarat, then you come down to Maharashtra, then to Goa, to Karwar, to Kerala, to Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Bengal. It's two seas, oceans. Fish are the same. But the way you cook and eat is so different. The masalas are so different. And that's how we have lived. Western people looking at Indian cinema, because now again, if you look at Oscar awards, or I've been there, even the Golden Globes, the last film I did with Priyadarshan, we were one among the 20, and I could see around 100 jurors sitting, and they also have these questions. It is their problem. You don't have to think if we get an Oscar or the global is something which is going, that we become big. No. They have different parameters, there's different, like the Miss World pageant, Miss Universe. So let's not look into it. As she said, we need to celebrate our stories. What has happened, evolution is happening, is more stories are coming out because the whole star system or film system or Bollywood, Collywood, kind of everything, the whole mafia, it has come out of the mafia because the audience are now exposed to different stories. And as he said, anybody can become a star today. If you are a relevant actor, if you are a good actor, a web series comes and he is the biggest star. The stars are born out of the stories. That's what is happening now. And that evolution I'm seeing, and me being an actor myself, in working in 5 different languages, 6 different languages, in the so-called pre-pandemic era, I used to get few films like Kanjivaram or Iruvar or sometimes to do once in a way, but they never ran in theatres. They were good films because there was no space for them in the theatres. But now with the sort of different stories, a Bengali writer, a Marathi writer, yesterday there was a Marathi writer, there was an Oriya film, they want to come and meet me now. And I look at them, I have realized that in this whole system where I was, I am starting unlearning how to act because I'm living different stories. It's challenging for me to see the nuances because I've never in the 3 decades of my career as an actor had never tried such nuances, such stories, such beautiful music of different languages, you know. And that is something which the evolution is what I'm seeing, and I'm very, very happy about it. And I'm so proud of me because in spite of being in cinema, because of my literature, because of my movements, because of my poetry, because of my exposure to theatre, that I'm able to still be relevant and they're still coming up to me so that I can tell their stories. And that is the evolution I'm finding it at the ground level.
Lovely, thank you. Mayank ji, for you. You were talking about how things have changed, how this sort of TV series have now got a much higher production quality, which kind of eats in. It struck me, the parallel to me was Twitter, that 140 characters did not finish off long-form writing, but it did change long-form writing a lot. So let me pose the counter to you. Netflix posted very significant losses this year and the previous year as well. So clearly things aren't working out there either. But going forward, how do you see this entire thing progressing? Is it going to be constant chaos which produces creativity? Are you seeing an end point to this?
I mean, it's evolution, right? And I'll completely agree with Prakash. Literally every element of entertainment, media, technology is based on evolution. I just want to, before I answer your question, there's a couple of things. One, you mentioned about how Iranian cinema caters to the Western gaze. And it is a kind of Iranian cinema. So the first time I went to Tehran, the first thing I wanted to do was watch a movie in Tehran, and they watch the same masala movies that we watch here. The public watches the same, they want the same entertainment. Then there is the other Iranian cinema that the world consumes, and earlier used to consume in film festivals. I think art house will become the new cool very soon because access has become possible. So we will all watch it now.
No, I'm telling you, content, intent, if you already know. If you have an investigator who has gone to the writer's table in the thought of the writer and you know it is wrong, you have every right. Give me the proof. Nothing. Just because one poster comes, one bikini is in Besharam Rang.
So you're
it's an orange color, yaar.
It
So
is
you're
a
saying don't
democratic
extrapolate
country.
intent.
That sort
okay,
of
and
banning, that
did
sort
you-
of panic is
Guys,
wrong.
we-
No,
We're
when
eating into
Vishwarupam
audience
came
time.
out, when
Guys,
Vishwarupam
we are
came
talking-
out,
Guys.
and they said Allahu Akbar needs to be
Guys.
removed from there.
That
without
recently
seeing the
there
movie.
was one
That time,
film in
did you say
Malayalam
anything about it?
which called Sexy Durga. It was about a lady who was a escort worker. They were against, ban it, the name is wrong. I said, you have no problem with the Durga wines. You have a problem with a film which is called Sexy Durga. This is not done here.
प्रकाश जी
No, you just can't.
प्रकाश जी,
This is the
Guys,
narrative
guys,
which
guys,
is wrong.
guys,
Sir, we are not saying you have
Guys,
every
guys,
right.
guys,
You have
guys,
every
guys.
right to say something
प्रकाश
is wrong
जी,
if you know it is wrong.
आपके कहने का पूरा सम्मान है, लेकिन जिस फिल्म की आप बात कर रहे हैं और जिस काली को आपने सिगरेट पीते हुए दिखाया, जरा सुप्रीम कोर्ट के तो आदेश
अरे
पढ़
there was
लीजिए
not
महाराज।
even a costume यार, a
अरे
lady.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट के अभी आप सेक्सी दुर्गा पे थे, फिर आप जंप कर रहे हो बिकनी पे।
Ramdev
एक
ji
चीज
is
पे रहो
wearing a
भाई,
langot which is
एक
Besharam
चीज पे
Rang.
रहो भाई,
You'll stop him?
एक
No,
चीज
no.
पे रहो।
You just can't
आप
jump to conclusions
please
like that.
Just
This is
because
not
there is
done,
one
sir.
religion which is
This
so
is not done. You are terrorizing
Okay,
people
one
to
second.
think.
Guys,
अगर बिकनी
guys,
को
time
change
out,
करना
time
चाहते-
out, time
आप
out,
you choose
time
bikini,
out.
I don't choose bikini.
Time
Nobody
out,
chose
please.
बिकनी। अगर बिकनी चूज किया होगा तो फिल्म 1000 करोड़
Time
नहीं
out.
करती। 1000 करोड़ नहीं करती।
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I need to say something.
30
I still
seconds
have-
each. Thank
Yeah.
you. Shefali,
Okay.
30 seconds. Sahana,
So
30
he
seconds.
said लोगों ने मेहनत की है, आप फिल्म का बॉयकॉट करने का मैसेज मत भेजिए। फिल्म मेहनत तो मणिरत्नम में भी की थी बॉम्बे में, लेकिन क्या हुआ, बॉम्बे में उनके घर पे बॉम्ब गिराया गया था, बॉम्बे में या चेन्नई में। He got hit by a shrapnel. Why? Because in his movie a Muslim man was shown marrying a Hindu girl. So the Hindu man and a Muslim woman. Similarly, गदर में जब सनी देओल शादी करता है, हाँ? No. When in Gadar, when Sunny Deol marries a Pakistani girl and puts blood in her head and says, "अब हो गई सिकनी," तब भोपाल में 400 लोगों का मॉब आया था, तब जला दिया था, पेट्रोल बॉम्ब फेंके थे थिएटर पे। One minute. Let me complete. So this तब भी तो मेहनत की थी, तब किसी ने बोला नहीं। अब जब मूवीज बन रहे हैं सॉरी अब जब मूवीज बन रहे हैं सो कॉल्ड इंटरफेथ मैरिजेस में वेयर द मैन इज अ मुस्लिम एंड अ वुमन इज हिंदू एंड दे आर शोइंग इट मूवीज लाइक केदारनाथ, दे आर शोइंग इट इन लाइक माय नेम इज खान, तब मूवीज किसी ने बोला नहीं था बॉयकॉट करना है. अब people have the ability to say that and they are only exercising their democratic right, which
Right.
they have every right to do so.
So basically, you're not disagreeing about anything. You're saying that people have the democratic right. They're not disagreeing with that. They're just saying use an informed opinion. Watch
That's
it.
fair enough.
Fair
He's
enough.
saying let the movie come out and then you react to that.
Right.
So then they have already then
Right. So,
no,
but
but
not-
why? I mean,
but
if
here's
from the
thing.
name of the book.
Sahana, I think the point here is it okay to take a movie boycott without understanding, without knowing the content? How will you know the intent, like Anant Vijay ji said, without knowing the content first?
Well, you see, I would probably, I would raise questions personally rather than boycotting, but
Right.
I would understand why somebody would want to boycott also. See, in the case of Sanjay Leela Bhansali, he has made Devdas, where he has made those two people dance together, which, you know,
Right.
the prostitute and the lady, the main character, that was not there at all in the original novel,
Okay.
and it was very
point.
objectionable. So people thought that something like that might come in this movie as well. You know, maybe there will be a dream sequence between Alauddin Khilji and this Padmini, right? And so they objected, and there were many reasons to
So
object.
basically,
first of
this
all,
is a fundamentally. Sorry, one
एक-
second.
एक line
sir,
बोलूं?
no,
No, I mean, I'm
sir.
saying I'm
we
not
have to
saying-
really go. We've eaten up into audience time. No more. We're going to go to the audience. But generally, this is a fundamental. We're not going to be able to bridge this gap. This is not one debate that is
एक
going
लाइन
to settle.
बोलते एक
Sir,
लाइन।
एक second, sir. एक second, please,
पूत के
please,
पांव
please.
पलने में दिख जाते हैं, इसलिए कंटेंट देखने के लिए ट्रेलर देखना भी काफी है.
ठीक है, okay. Let's go to the audience questions. How are we doing the audience questions? I'm sorry, I can't see anything. I'm just going to stand up. This is not an ideological debate we're going to get over. One is preemptive and the other is post facto. That's an ongoing debate in everything,
Post-truth
including the use of force. It's the most important thing about the UN's use of force doctrine. I can't see your hands go up. किसका हाथ है? हाँ, चलिए, question पूछिए.
सर नमस्कार, मैं वैभव अनंत
Please
विजय
direct your question किसी एक बंदे को पूछिए, please.
सर अनंत सर से को मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं, उनकी बात से मैं सहमत हूं. और सर ये जो पोस्टर में भी आजकल कब्जा हो रहा है, मतलब मैं देख रहा हूं जैसे आपने कहा ना कि जो स्टार होते हैं वो ना सिर्फ डायरेक्टर पर ना सीन कटाते बल्कि आजकल पोस्टर भी मतलब सिंगल फेस के होने लगे हैं. पहले फिल्म क्योंकि फिल्म टीम वर्क है, तो सर ये कहाँ लेकर के जाएगा? मतलब हम लोगों को तो मतलब दिमाग में वही डाला जा रहा है जो उनके मन का है. डायलॉग्स भी वो ये कहते हैं कि हमारे हिसाब से कहानी लिखो, इस तरह से.
Right, thank you.
बोलूं?
Anand sir?
आप बोलूं सर?
हाँ जी, बोलिए सर.
मैं तो भाई पहले ही थोड़ा टेक्निकल चर्चा करना चाहता था, लेकिन भाई लोगों को मंजूर ही नहीं था कि कोई गंभीर बात कर लो.
सर, हम
कि
लोग सुनना चाहते हैं, सर.
जिस प्रकार से निर्देशक नाम की संस्था लगातार छीजती चली जा रही है, उनकी वक़्त कम होती जा रही है. कोई स्पॉट बॉय होता है, उसको किसी चड्डा नाम की फिल्म में या एक दूसरी फिल्म जो अभी हुई उसका मतलब किसी को भी डायरेक्टर बना दो और उसके बाद अपने मन की करो. तो ये जो प्रवृत्ति है, इस पर बहुत गंभीरता से हिंदी फिल्मों में विचार किया जाना चाहिए. मैं जानता हूं एक फिल्म ऐसी बनी है, डायरेक्टर आंसुओं से रो रहा है बेचारा कि एक सुपरस्टार आया और उसने पूरी फिल्म कटवा दी, अपनी मूछें छोटी करवा ली, अपने को 10 साल पहले उनका बनवा लिया. तो ये सारी चीज़ें जो हो रही है हिंदी फिल्मों में, ये सबसे ज़्यादा बड़ा खतरा है. लेकिन ना तो उस पर कोई अभिनेता मुंह खोलेगा, ना कोई छोटा मोटा निर्देशक मुंह खोलेगा उसके बारे में. लेकिन जैसा कि हिंदू समाज में होता रहा है, वैसे ही हिंदी समाज में भी होगा कि रिफॉर्म अंदर से ही आएगा. कोई ना कोई राजा राम मोहन राय आएगा जो ये रिफॉर्म करेगा.
Thank you.
Sir,
If you can hand,
धन्यवाद,
no more questions. Please hand over the mic to the next person. Thank you.
बात कर रहा था सर.
Next.
Hello everyone, I am Kunal. Prakash sir, this question is for you. We admit that Bollywood is going through a crisis right now. Therefore, makers of the movie are injecting aspects of religion and patriotism in it. So, how far that would help Bollywood revive?
Thank you. Prakash sir?
Selling doesn't revive anything. Will buying pakoras, making pakoras give you a job? See, they will try to. because of the ecosystem what is there, and if people are looking at putting in religion, films may work, somebody will come to make money out of it. But finally, will it sustain? Will the people see? You know, everybody who wants to make business, today even nationalism has become a business, isn't it?
Exactly.
So everybody wants to do some certain propaganda films. Somebody wants to do left films, somebody wants to do right films, somebody wants to put their ideologies and do films. Everybody has a right. Finally, the audience, the people, and to what extent that it becomes relevant is what is going to happen. People who want to make will keep making films like that.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you.
If you can pass the mic on
And you
to
can't
the
stop
lady.
them from making it. If somebody is doing a propaganda film, we say don't ban it, let it come out. Let it come out. Everybody's intention, everybody has a reason to tell a story. If somebody wants to tell a religious story, he should make a film to make a religious story. He has the right to tell the film and the audience will watch it. As simple as that. The same way somebody doesn't want to make something else he wants to make, you have to let them also make those films, right?
Right. Ma'am,
हाय मेरा नाम अनामिका है मेरा सवाल बॉलीवुड से
speak up a bit. We can't hear you. Hold it
Hello?
closer.
हेलो
Yeah.
हाँ मेरा सवाल बॉलीवुड वालों से है
No, who won? You choose one person to answer your
प्रकाश राज
question.
जी हाँ
Who?
प्रकाश राज जी
जी।
हाँ आई
बॉलीवुड वाले तो एक ही हैं भैया।
आई थिंक हमें बॉयकॉट वालों को ब्रॉड ब्रश नहीं करना चाहिए। अभी कोई भी मूवमेंट होती है उसमें लॉजिकल आर्ग्यूमेंट्स भी होंगे, स्टूपिड आर्ग्यूमेंट्स भी होंगे। हर मूवमेंट की नेचर ऐसी हो जाती है जो मास मूवमेंट बन जाती है। तो मेरा सवाल है कि बॉलीवुड जो लॉजिकल आर्ग्यूमेंट्स है बॉयकॉट वालों के, उनको कॉग्निसेंस क्यों नहीं देता? जस्ट बिकॉज पठान हिट होगी इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि उसमें जो चीज़ें थी वो ठीक थी। अभी हमें ये पता है कि इंडिया पाकिस्तान स्पॉन्सर टेररिज्म का विक्टिम है, तो हम अपनी मूवीज़ में पाकिस्तान को सॉफ्ट क्यों दिखाते हैं और अपनी साइड को रोक क्यों दिखाते हैं?
Okay, so that's a good point. I mean, so her question basically is, if somebody wants to see Pakistan depicted as a bad state, why
Then
should
you wait
they...
for the films which are made like that? Why are you asking the fellow who is making a film? If you see 1,000 films which will be made like that, no, go watch those films.
नहीं
So why are you
No two for- no two for,
deciding
please.
what a
You can hand the mic
filmmaker
over.
should do for you? No, don't
Abhijit-
watch that film.
ये नेशन को
अभिजीत,
नुकसान
sorry,
करता है।
नहीं,
What-
नहीं
ma'am,
करता
ma'am,
है, नहीं
no
करता
two
है,
fro,
नहीं
no
करेगा।
two fro. Please hand the
अभिजीत-
mic.
वो नहीं कर रहा है.
One
उनका-
second.
उनका-
Anant ji, do you want
I'm
to add
telling
that?
you.
उनका
You watch
प्रश्न
the film.
पठान
There's
पे
no
है।
problem
प्रकाश
in
जी
it.
से पूछ लो पठान देखा है नहीं देखा इन्होंने, तभी तो रिएक्ट करेंगे।
आपने
उनका
देखा है
प्रश्न
सर?
पठान पे है। आपने पठान देखी?
नहीं, वो पठान पे नहीं है उनका
पठान
question.
पे ही है सर।
नहीं, they are saying
No, her question was
no,
specific
her
to
question
Pathan.
was something else.
Very specific on
No,
पठान।
it is not. I'm telling you, she is telling it. Why are you telling her question? Please. Don't decide
let
others'
me ask
questions
her,
also, sir.
was your
No, no,
question
I am-
specific
you
to
can't
Pathan?
decide others' questions
मैं आपको
also.
सिर्फ
I'm
इसलिए कह रहा हूँ,
sorry.
you must be
I'm
sorry, sir.
sorry.
आपको सॉरी होना ही
That was
पड़ेगा।
not the question.
यही क्वेश्चन था,
No,
आप उनसे
okay,
पूछ
okay,
लीजिए।
not the question.
That
I'm
was the
Time-
question.
time-
He is saying,
She's
That was the
she's
question.
You are
asking-
saying it.
वो पहली लाइन में उसने कहा पठान।
She says her question is specific to Pathan.
Don't-
Am I
a
correct?
sentence
अरे
is
सर
not
बात तो
Pathan.
सुन लो।
No.
बात तो सुन लो।
She is talking similar films. I'm answering
No,
it.
no, she's...
Don't decide
Prakash,
questions
She is
also.
saying
Prakash sir, she's saying her question is specific to Pathan. Yeah.
That was not the question.
How do you know?
Arre,
चलो कोई
How
बात
do
नहीं।
you
she's
know?
talking about Pakistan, this thing. Why are they showing it?
अरे
Let them
इनको सूट
show.
नहीं कर रहा भाई, छोड़
It
दो।
was
Let
contextual.
them show. Let them show, I said. You don't watch that film,
I
no?
need 30 seconds
Okay,
here.
You don't
so
watch it.
now he's saying, let her go and watch the movie and then
Let her
decide,
not
right?
watch the
or let
film.
her not watch the movie. The 2 minutes ago he said, पहले movie देखो तो सही, उसके बाद बोलो boycott करना है कि नहीं.
No,
दोनों
no.
नहीं हो सकता है ना. दोनों नहीं हो सकता है.
True. You can't have both.
You
no?
can't have both.
You
I
can't.
said don't try to boycott before not seeing the content.
How do you know?
Content पता नहीं है, intent पता नहीं है.
अभी आप
एक
बोल रहे
रंग
हैं,
देखा
तो
और रंग
कैसे
को भी
पता
hijack कर
चलेगा?
लेंगे आप, सिर्फ आपका रंग है.
तो कैसे पता चलेगा जब रिव्यू बोल रहा है कि पठान का जो हीरो है
हाँ, उसी से बोल रहा हूँ, let-
तो
okay.
how do you read the review?
Let
you
that
don't want
film
to
be there,
watch
no.
it. You are saying don't watch the movie.
Oh, you
Obviously,
have every
you
right
can't
not to like the film.
No, that's not what you said.
Just because
you
you
said
by
don't
chance
watch the
went
movie.
into the
I'm
theatre
sorry,
and watched
sir.
a film you didn't like, you
please
can't
don't
ban the
change
film.
goalposts. Don't change goalposts.
Okay.
2 minutes ago you said don't watch
वो
the movie.
प्रकाश जी
Now you're
जैसे
saying
लोगों
you
के
have
साथ
every right
दिक्कत
to
यही
not
है
like the movie.
कि
These
वो
are two different things.
जहाँ
I'm sorry.
जहाँ फंसते हैं वहाँ निकल लेते हैं.
Okay, let's talk about the topic. Let's talk about the topic.
एटलीस्ट मैं निकलता हूँ, अटके रहते हैं आप.
प्रकाश जी आपसे एक क्वेश्चन है. प्रकाश जी
आप ही को पूछ रहे हैं सर. हाँ.
वेब सीरीज में आप गाली देना पसंद करेंगे? अगर आती है तो बार बार फिल्मों के अंदर गाली वेब सीरीज में भी हर जगह गाली उपयोग हो रही है आजकल.
अच्छा, he's asking about गाली
No,
गलौज.
ऐसे रोल्स मेरे पास आ रहे हैं, मैं नहीं करूंगा ऐसे, because there's a lot of dark web series which come, which is not mine.
Very good, very good.
I don't like it personally. I would rather do a Mukbir.
Okay.
I would rather do a Chiku.
If you can give the mic to the next
You know,
person.
it is my decision. I don't do dark films.
Sir,
वाणी
mic-
से भी एक क्वेश्चन है.
सर एक ही क्वेश्चन
वाणी से एक
सर
question.
बहुत लाइन लगा है, प्लीज अगले बंदे को दे दीजिए. थैंक यू.
गुड इवनिंग पैनलिस्ट, माय नेम इज रोहन. मेरा क्वेश्चन प्रकाश सर से है अगेन.
यार किसी और को भी पूछो कभी कभार.
या तो
बेचारे
फिर-
इतने सारे पैनलिस्ट बैठे हुए, बस उन्हीं को
इट्स
सर पे टपके जा
कंबाइंड
रहे हो.
क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू बोथ साउथ इंडियन मूवीज एंड
ठीक है, आपका हक बनता है. चलिए.
आप उनको डिक्टेट नहीं कर
विनती कर रहा हूं
सकते
आपसे,
प्लीज.
but
आप उनको
पूछिए.
डिक्टेट नहीं कर सकते सर, प्लीज उनको
देश
डिक्टेट
में
नहीं
ऑलरेडी डिक्टेटर है, तू बोल.
सर इतने बुरे हम नॉर्थ वाले सर.
पूछिए.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जैसे अभी एक ट्रेंड चल रहा है कि साउथ इंडियन मूवीज को लोग ज़्यादा प्रेफर कर रहे हैं, इन द सेंस कि एक साउथ इंडियन मूवीज कोई भी आ रही है, एवरीवन इज लाइकिंग देम. दे आर ग्रेट, कंतारा इज ग्रेट, RRR. बट इन दिस सेंस जब एक ही साउथ इंडियन मूवी जैसे अला वैकुंठपुरमुलु, उसी का भी रीमेक बना शहजादा, बोथ मूवीज हैव सिमिलर प्लॉट होल्स. वन
Can you ask the question? We've run out of time, so just ask the question.
So
please.
one was appreciated while the other was criticized for its plot holes. So does it have a hypocrisy ki के plot holes appreciate हो रहे हैं कि
Certain
नहीं?
stories which work with different languages, different music, different sensibilities, they would have taken the plot and it might have not worked in these sensibilities here. You know, certain things just cannot be translated. They must have just transcribed something like that. So there's something lost in translation. Probably that is it. The intent are two different. Now, if Kantara, if you say it's a very big hit, it's a wonderful film. But suddenly you can't say I will do it based on a culture in somewhere in Gujarat or somewhere in Haryana. No, it doesn't work like that. So that must be there. And they must have jumped at the whole idea of the film or the plot that they thought they would work. It didn't work.